Hey everybody, how's it going? Beast, bringing you a great race today on Forza Motorsport 7. So this is in the Forza GT Endurance hopper, which in my opinion is actually the best racing that you can find right now on Forza 7, as far as multiplayer is concerned. And so this track's on Monza, and I'm using the Audi R8 V10 LMS. So basically what this is it's exotic GT cars. So you see, this is what I'm driving. There's a Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo there. There's like a BMW Z4 GTE. There's a Aston Martin DBR9. There's a what are some of the other ones? I think the Bentley is in here. There's a Dragon Speed Gallardo right there. Well, there you go. So there's the GTR. There's a McLaren 12C. Like all these just different cars. BMW. I think it was the M3 or the M4 GTS or GTE. I'm not sure. But yeah. So anyway, that just happened. And then this is just ridiculous. That kind of a crash in the beginning. Now I did make a mistake by choosing. See, I made a big mistake here by choosing to use this tune that I've never used before. It's by Car Lightning, who is actually the #1 player basically on this game. I mean, I don't know that he's fully #1, but he had #1 times on like every track on Forza 6, and he won. And look at that, man. That's what ruined the race for me right there. So I was actually kind of in a decent spot, and then that happened. So this is actually a really good race. It's a really good like comeback story. I end up running the second fastest time in the lobby. Only the guy in first place beat me. And I think I got third place, either third or fourth, I can't remember. Man, this was so much fun. So basically, it's the GT class, the GT3 class, or exotic GT class, like all the cars I described. And then when you race in here, so they triple the lap lengths. So instead of doing a typical race on this track, would be like probably 4 or 5 laps, maybe 4 laps, I guess, and then we're doing 12. And initially, it was tire wear and fuel on, so you'd have to make one quick stop, as you see down at the bottom left. It says stops, 0 of 1, so you have to make one pit stop. But it's always been where the tires will actually start to wear. So taking your pit stop is a real big strategy, because you don't know whether you want to take it early. Because if you end up taking it too early, then your tires can wear out by the time you get to the end, and you'll be losing grip. But if you take it too late, then you'll also be losing grip in the middle. So you want to basically take it sometime in the middle. The race times on here are fairly long. I think this one's 25 minutes, which I actually think is probably like a perfect amount of racing. It really allows you to really get a good feel for the track and really, correct any mistakes that you've made in the earlier laps. So like really figure out the track and really lay down a good time. And that's why, as you see right here, I crashed at the beginning, and now I'm in 13th or 14th place, and it's pretty slow. Catching up to all these guys as I'm learning this tune, but after I get like 6-8 laps under my belt, 10 laps under my belt, I really start laying down some good times, and I end up getting a bunch of clean ones, figuring out each little turn that I was suffering on here or there, and then I end up getting a real clean. I think I got a 149.8, which wasn't really the best. I think in the Americas it only put me at around like 200 or something like that. But for as little as I drive this car, and for the first time driving this tune, I'll totally take that. And especially since it was for some reason the car didn't shift right there. I don't know what was happening. Yeah, for as much as I'm doing that, I'll take that. It's just, second fastest time in the lobby. And like I said, I think I finished third or fourth. I can't remember. But yeah, so this tune's by Car Lightning. He basically had #1 times on most of the tracks on Forza 6 and with most of the car classes, which is really rare. Usually you can see someone that's really good and they'll put up a bunch of top times, but like this guy literally had a top time on almost every single track, and in most classes he had top times. So he is really good, and I found he had like the #2 time on. I was just looking at tracks because I've raced in this class before, and before I was using the GTR, the Motolotech GTR, the one you got to drive in the demo. I was driving that, and I like the way that one feels, but I wasn't very competitive with it. So I decided that I would try something different. I ended up trying the Audi R8, this one here, and I was running it on the default stock tune, and it was doing okay. But on some tracks it wasn't competitive. So before I raced in here, I actually went and looked at the leaderboard on 1 or 2 tracks and found that most, there were a decent amount of people who had the Audi R8 as their car. I can't even explain to you how little turning I needed to do right there through that turn, through the whole race. Like, the amount of turning on my stick, I'm telling you guys, if the stick has 180 degrees worth of travel, I mean, we're talking probably 5 to 10 degrees I needed to go is all, which is an absolutely insanely small amount of travel on the stick. Like, I'm telling you, if you look at it from, like, 9 to 3, you can move the stick from 9 to 3. 9 is obviously full left, and 3 would be full right. I had to go from 12 to, like, 12:30 with the stick in order to get that incredible amount of steering through there. Probably even less than that. So, anyway, but yeah, I mean, I looked at a couple of tunes, looked at a couple guys up there, and saw that there were a bunch of guys using the Audi on the top page, and so I figured, okay, the car's competitive, I just need to get a better tune for it. And so that's what I did. I downloaded this tune from Car Lightning, who I know is really good, and so I downloaded that, and that's what I'm using here. So I would say at this point I've started to figure it out slightly. It's still a little loose, and there's a lot to learn when you're doing a tune. Like, there's no way I can learn as much as I needed to learn just in this amount of time. Like, as you can see, I still get the back end kind of loose. Like, that was a terrible turn. I mean, I didn't slide or anything or put up any smoke, but it just wasn't the best turning. And yeah, so the fourth gear is really long in this tune. You can cycle through the gears, and they all seem pretty well, but I kind of started winding out third gear because fourth just feels really long. Fourth, it's actually only a 4-speed tune, basically. I mean, I would guess there's a fifth, but it's probably more like an overdrive, and I've never really used fifth. I've never had to shift into fifth, and all the time I've been racing it. So, and also, just experimenting. I mean, you can take turn after turn, and there's just so many parts to taking every single turn. Like here, I'm telling you guys that the amount of stick travel, it's actually so little stick travel that it actually kind of hurts my hand to do it, because you have to grip the controller tight enough to get that much of a precision turn. I've thought about racing in Forza. The Elite controllers came with the extended stick, kind of like a SCUF controller has, so you can actually extend the stick. And I've thought about extending the left stick for Forza racing and putting on like a medium stick, because that'll give me a little more control, make it a little bit easier. But like to go through there is just, it's a little tough on my hand after, when you're doing a 25-minute race, it can get a little tedious. But yeah, I mean, it's just a real fun car to drive. It sounds really good. This class is sort of like, I was having this conversation with a guy who I raced with. It wasn't in this race here, but the one right after this, where we were talking about it, and I told him this is actually like the lowest level class I'd like to race in. See, right there was the first time I'd figured out that turn, and I said out loud to myself, oh yeah, now I got this. But we were talking out loud. We were just talking about how this was my like lowest level car that I like to drive, and he said this was the highest level. He preferred like the road type cars. And he was like, there's a few cars I like in this class, like the Koenigsegg 1-to-1 and stuff. But he was more of a road car guy, and I was like, man, this is like the lowest level class I'll race. So there is some frustration there because I'm used to driving much faster cars, so this doesn't feel very fast. Like, I mean, coming on this straight on Monza, and most cars I'd be well over 200 or near 200, and I'm not even hitting 180 in this thing. So there is a little bit of a struggle as far as like, making it feel just quite right. But I mean, that's just the way it goes. But this was fun. This, in my opinion, this is the best racing you can get on the multiplayer on this game. I didn't learn this till later, but the tire wear is actually turned off now. So there were issues with, I don't know what the issues were, but the tire wear, they turned off, so now there's really no strategy to the pit at all. You just take the pit whenever. For me, I like to pit really late, because I want to race and get a real good feel for the track before I pit, because, like, look how close that is right there. That was so close, wasn't it? Crazy, man. I was so nervous coming in that corner. I thought for sure I was going to, I mean, first of all, he's an idiot for coming across the track like that. But second of all, at least he went fully across the track like that, and I was able to avoid him. And I didn't even really have to brake or anything. I just did my normal turning, and I just sort of, hoped for the best, and it ended up being okay. And that was a really good turn right there. That was not so good, but that was pretty good there. And yeah, I mean, it's good. I love this. This is a fun game, but in here. Okay, so before with the tire wear, you usually wear out around like the 12 to 14 minute mark. So if you imagine this race is 25 minutes, so if your tires start to wear out at the 12-minute mark, or you take your pit stop at the 12-minute mark, you have another 12 or 13 to go. So you're basically running on tires a couple times that are like slightly starting to lose grip. So for me, I like to pit later. I pit around the 60% mark, so just over halfway. So you basically go halfway and then do like another lap or two, because that way you can pit only once. Because sometimes I'll see people pit on like lap 2 or 3. If you pit that early, then your tires, you know, for example, this is a 12 lap race, so I would normally pit on like lap 7 or 8. So if a normal person, and you know, that's because the tires start to wear out. If a normal person pitted on like lap 2, then by the time they get to lap 10, they've already done 8 laps on those tires, and those tires are going to start to wear out. And so they may have to pit a second time, or they'll have to run the rest of the race with, you know, crap tires that are not gripping very well. So for me, I like to go pretty much as late as possible. So I would go basically sometimes until the tires started to turn yellow. So in this case, I was just keeping an eye on them, and they never really got there. And so I think I ended up pitting on like lap 10. And also because, you know, as you see, I started out in 13th, I worked my way up, and then now I'm in 5th because people have been dropping off the pit. But it wasn't until the next race that I realized that that the tires weren't actually wearing. And so I chatted with this guy about it, and he said, you know, man, they don't wear anymore for whatever reason. They turned it off. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I wish they would keep it on, because now there's not really a strategy to the pit. I mean, you can just take the pit right at the beginning and then get it out of the way and take it on the first lap, and then you just be good to go. I mean, that might be the way to go with it. But for me, I like to do it at the end because, like I said, I mean, I want to get as many laps as possible. When you race something like this, you know, this is how you get good at a track. You know, you're not going to get good at a track by racing like 3-4 laps and then going to a new track. You don't really learn anything about the track. So in this case, you get to literally go over the same track over and over and over and over and over again and really perfect your racing line, really perfect your braking points, really perfect, you know, where you're shifting and all that kind of stuff. And so you'll see one of these laps coming up, I actually experimented with shifting, with braking later on that turn that I just took. And you'll see I end up basically going off. And so there's a little bit of experimentation that goes on here, but as you race it, you get more and more of a feel for it, you get more and more comfortable, and you really start to push the limits of the car. And yeah, I mean, eventually I was doing some work, but again, this car, I don't really know. I still have yet to find what my car is, because you know, it's about what cars are competitive, but it's also about what car you like and what car feels right to you. And you know, this car feels pretty good. Like I said, it just, for whatever reason, the acceleration doesn't quite do it for me. The acceleration speed, it just feels a little sloppy in that department, especially with this tune, which is a 4-speed. It sort of accentuates that a little bit because, you know, you don't have a ton of gears to work with. But I mean, I don't know. I don't really race in this class enough to do that. But these are the best racing that I find in Forza so far, because you get these long lap counts. So if you make a mistake, you're able to really catch back up. And for me, I've said this before in previous videos, but I'm a really consistent driver. I'm not going to be the flashiest, like super fastest driver, but I'm very consistent. And so over the course of a race like this, a 25-minute race, I can work my way up and see, okay, now right now it's because of pit stops, but I'm in second place. And this is why I didn't want to take a pit right now. So I would have normally pitted. Ooh, excuse me. Would have normally pitted right now or next lap, but I just stayed out because I was just doing some things, and these guys were... I was kind of laughing a little bit. You can see that guy Jammer right there. His mic is flashing a lot. He was using a wheel or something, and he had it on the table, and his mic was on, and it was just like every time, like about every 30 seconds, you hear like... It was like you could hear his wheel vibrating around on the table and stuff, and so these other guys, like this Ranger guy, and some other guys were yelling at him to turn it off. And of course he wasn't responding, and then he responded, and it was like a kid who was like 13 or 14, and he was screaming, and he was calling us all no lives, and people were like, shouldn't you be in school? And he's like, I'm retired from school. It's like, what the heck does that mean, bro? You're retired from school. You just... And it was funny because he hadn't said anything yet, and I was like, what are you, like... I was like, you just took 7th grade English and then decided to call it quits? And he's like, actually, I'm in 8th grade. And I was just like, wow, bro. Like, that was a pretty close guess, you know? But, I don't know, it was funny. So these guys were distracting me a little bit, so I was kind of chuckling. Just kind of laughing at whatever they were doing, and I ended up making a mistake or two, a little a mistake or two at some point, I think, but mainly I had myself kind of dialed in. And like I said, I don't really know if, I mean, this car is great for me, but I don't really know if this is the car that I would stick with, but I haven't really found something else that's as competitive that I like as much. And yeah, it's more about consistency, and this thing's pretty planted. This version from Car Lightning. Wow, excuse me. I'm still sick, as you can hear. I'm sorry about that. I haven't figured out how to mute my mic yet on this little setup, so sorry. This tune's a little, like, one of the things I liked about this Audi before was that you could really throw it hard into the corners, and you wouldn't have to worry about the car getting loose or anything. With this car, this tune in specific, it's definitely getting a lot loose. A lot more loose. Anyway, I think this, and that was a good lap right there. I think this is the one that I braked later. Nope, not that one. So I kept, like, sliding, and I couldn't figure out when to downshift to first. And so with a car like this, where you downshift to the first and you start sliding out, generally, if you can take a turn in second, that's the best way to do it, and then drop to 1 on the exit if you need to, if you're bogging a little bit and you're not getting enough power. So that's, man, I can't even speak. That's basically what I ended up doing later in the race. But yeah, I mean, this was a really fun race because of the length of the race, and generally everybody in here is actually super clean. I've yet to encounter somebody who is not, well, maybe 1 or 2 times I've encountered someone who wasn't clean, and, you know, there's a lot to be said for the fact that this is like a patient type race, so, you know, someone who wants to wreck people, they're not going to get any fun out of this because it's a 25-minute race. They're not going to want to come in here and wreck the race, you know, because, you know, they're not competitive at a certain point, so once you get away from them after like 5 minutes, they're not competitive anymore. So the good thing for, you know, if you were trying to smash people, if you're racing in a normal lobby, like every 6 to 7 minutes you get a new race and you can take everybody out in the first corner, which is satisfying, I'm sure, for them. But for a race like this, you know, everybody's fairly spread out and everybody just ends up getting their own little world, and it's really hard to crash people off. So you find almost no people in here trying to crash. And the caliber racers in here are really good. It's always really fun, really competitive, really consistent. And yeah, I mean, in this case, see, this guy behind me, I knew he was faster, and I was trying to stay as much ahead of him as I could, and I really wanted to just keep running faster and faster laps, which is what I ended up doing. Oh, that's way slower. So basically, and I think this might be the one that I try to brake later on. No, definitely not. I don't know. It might have already happened. I might have missed it because I wasn't paying attention, but see, so that was much better there. Much better there. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, it's a game of trying to figure out exactly when to brake and when to do all that stuff. And when you race like this, it's a lot easier to just sort of settle in, and you get to the point where you just, you know, you're drowning everything out. Like that guy's mic was really loud and it was rattling all the time. And in previous, you know, in other games or in a previous, you know, version of myself, excuse me, I would have been really upset about that, but in this case, like, you know, I almost didn't notice it. Like, I was just racing so intently that I wasn't even really hearing it, even though it was fairly annoying. I could sort of hear it off in the distance. But mainly I was just focused on driving, and that was terrible right there. A lot of tire slide, and that guy gained. I mean, he gained a lot. He gained a couple hundred feet on me right there. So, anyway, I just thought I wanted to bring you guys this because this was really awesome. Really fun. Most fun I've had doing a race for a while. That Porsche race I did the other day on the Nürburgring where I got ranked 13 was tons and tons of fun. I would say this rivaled that amount of fun. And so yeah, and also I downloaded a free trial of F1 2017, so I think I'm going to put up a video of me trying that out. I've never actually raced any of those games, so I think I want to do that. So that's going to be coming in the pipeline within a few days. But yeah, I appreciate you guys being here. Your support recently has been really awesome. Thank you guys. We just reached 200. I almost said 200,000. Oh man, well that is horrible. What an ambitious. No, just no, just no. So we just reached 200 subscribers, which is epic. I remember it seems like just the other day talking about reaching 100, and now it's doubled. So I'm super grateful to you guys for being supportive. I know I'm still a really small channel, extremely small channel, so thank you for that. Make sure you check back soon if you like my content, if you like what I'm doing. Check back soon. for another video. There's plenty of content on my channel already. Lots of Forza 7 videos, lots of Forza 7 and 4K videos in the last 10 or 12 days. And then also there's a bunch of Call of Duty World War II videos too if you're into that sort of thing. So I appreciate it. Enjoy the last 2 laps of the race. I'll see you guys another time. Appreciate you.